slide that I put on works really, really good for, especially cutting 45-degree angles. I've always struggled with getting them perfect, but with this slide, it works a lot better than just having a miter gauge in the track. And I'm going to start with just cutting one end off first. So again, I don't care about measurements right now. I just want to get one end cut on each of them. So I'm just going to do that. So no measuring for this one. Okay, so I got my 45 cut on that end. And these are the little pieces that, if I hadn't had the tape there, I have no doubt that at least one of them would have got caught in there and shot me. So make sure you don't have any gaps, especially when you're cutting 45s. One of the big advantages of having this slide, especially cutting with 45 degrees, I can see where the saw blade came through. It made a curve right here. I hope you can see that. So I can line this piece, my mark, up with the kerf on this side. So I know exactly where it's going to cut. Because that's also a challenge, cutting 45 degrees on the table saw, is it's hard to see with the blade tilted exactly where that tooth is going to come in. So it's hard to gauge. Whereas with this, I've got the kerf that gives me a mark, so I know exactly where the saw blade is going to go. So I just line my pencil mark up with this side of the kerf, and I know that it'll be cut perfect. So what I do is I get it in there where it's gonna be cut. So I've got it lined up perfect. Then I get my stop block, which I've got little 45s cut on the stop block. This one is bigger than this one. And the reason for these is when you're making a bunch of cuts, you get sawdust buildup. If I didn't have a cut and there's sawdust here built up, my board might not get right up against it, so I'd have an inaccurate cut. Whereas if there's a 45, it gives a place for the sawdust to collect, so my board can go up against and won't be in the way of sawdust. Now what I want to make sure when I'm doing thinner pieces that my 45 there, see, these are almost the same, so I don't want to use this fat one, I want to use this skinny one. That's what the skinny one is for. So there I'm not going to interfere with this piece. So I've got this piece lined up where it's going to cut. I'll simply put in my stop block, put it up against this piece without moving the piece, and just simply tighten it on here. It's on my list of projects to put a T-track in here with knobs and something fancy, but this has worked for years and it will continue to work. So now I continue cutting. Make sure that I'm cutting the 45 the right way. Otherwise, I'm going to have a box that's not a box. So make sure that you've got the long side up when your blade is tilted that way. So as long as I've got the pointy side up, which I stack them, I'll sit them here ready, right side up. So I'm not having to focus or take anything away from the saw when I'm cutting. Right. We're at 19.